My entitled mother tries to force an intervention between me and my sister, whom I have gone no contact with. And I've never been more flabbergasted and freaked out in my life by my mother's behavior towards me. And at this point, I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for choosing to go no contact with basically my entire family. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened on Friday, and I'm so beyond upset right now, and I've gone completely no contact for the immediate future with my mom. Also, before we get started, all names are fake in this story. My sister Jane and I have no relationship. She's my sister by blood only. I'll try to be as unbiased as possible here, but she did some pretty awful things when our father passed away. Things like withholding information about his estate, attempting to sell his home and split the profits with his fiancée against my knowledge, not actually being there physically when he passed away in hospice care, etc. Afterwards, she would continuously gaslight me to the point where I went no contact with her back in 2018, and my life has been so much better without her in it. My mom by the name of Brenda is not a fan of this. She was divorced from my father, and even though I loved him so much, I have to admit that he wasn't the greatest parent in some aspects. My sister and I not having a great relationship is mostly in part his fault. Brenda doesn't like that her two only children have a non-existent relationship and is constantly trying to fix it. After being in therapy, I've started learning how to put up and enforce boundaries. I don't like it when my mom attempts to fix our relationship, and I gently call her out on it each time. For example, a few weeks ago, she mentioned how she wasn't going to name me or Jane as the executor until we get our stuff figured out. So I calmly told her that I didn't think that was appropriate to say or do, and that I didn't like how she isn't taking into account my feelings and why I chose to go no contact with Jane. My wife and I flew in to go visit Brenda this past Friday. We recently had a son a year ago, so we wanted to visit his grandma. We walked in and we were met with half the family standing there, including Jane, who was sitting down, claiming that they were doing an intervention. And I've honestly never been more blown away by my family's entitlement in my life. Now, when they said they wanted to do an intervention, it was going to be all about my relationship with Jane, and honestly, I was speechless. I looked at my wife, who was just as flabbergasted as I was. I said, "I'm not doing an intervention, and this is enormously inappropriate." My mom then went into this tirade of how I'm a grown adult, and this behavior is childish. I need to make up with my sister so we can put all this behind us. Well, as you can probably guess, we immediately left. My mom followed us out while asking why I couldn't do the adult thing and just talk to my sister. And at this point, my baby was crying. So we got into the car and booked a hotel. I booked a new flight for tomorrow, and I'm trying my best not to look upset for the baby. My wife says that she had nothing to do with this and would never sanction it even if she did know about it. My wife's phone and mine have been blowing up nonstop, with family accusing me of being a drama queen and hurting my mom's feelings. The only family member I didn't go no contact with is my stepdad, who sent me a simple apology text. With all these text messages, I'm starting to doubt myself. My next therapy session isn't until next Friday, and I'm honestly not sure how I feel. So am I the jerk for going no contact with my mom and extended family after they tried to force an intervention with my sister Jane? Wow, this is honestly so inappropriate. Like, this seriously is bananas. I can't imagine what Brenda was thinking when she secretly planned all of this out and said, "Yes, this is the right time to make this happen." Like, what is wrong with this lady? This lady essentially put this baby in the middle of an extremely emotional and potentially volatile situation. Not to mention the fact that the original poster has made their wishes very well known. They said blatantly, "I don't want to talk to Jane. I don't want to deal with this. Leave me alone." And if they had any sense about them, they would have listened. But doing this and going behind your back, gathering the whole family together as if this is somehow gonna fix anything, that in my opinion is just awful. And for the record, in my opinion at least, I don't think there's anything wrong with choosing not to talk to somebody who you know for a fact is going to treat you like garbage. That's not you being rude or mean or somehow like ignorant towards them. That's just you trying to protect your own well-being, because that individual, whoever that is, has proven that they do not care about you in the slightest. And based on what the original poster is saying, it really seems like Jane fits the bill. So no, you are definitely not the jerk here. Your family is absolutely insane for trying to do this to you, and they had no right to try and force you and your family in this awful situation. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled mother has been intrusive and invasive about every aspect of my life, constantly causing problems and proving once and for all that she cannot be trusted. So after years of dealing with her constantly, I've decided to finally put my foot down, and I've gone completely no contact. And I've honestly never felt better about cutting her out of my life. Here's what happened. I'm gonna start off by saying that my mom is a piece of work. Like, seriously, a massive piece of work. Where do I even begin? Well, let's start with being a teen. My mom is an alcoholic who treats her bipolar with whiskey. So generally speaking, she's doing pretty bad. When she was asked to take her meds but not the whiskey, someone was going to get slapped and then made to feel bad. But my mother, every time she would scream she was leaving my dad, she would take my sister and then proceed to tell me is that the reason she's not taking me is because I have a job. Okay, cool, thanks for that. My sister has no fault in this. She would get woken up at 2 in the morning and they would just leave. She was under 16 at the time. Would my dad call the police? Yeah, of course. But would they do anything? Of course not. Even though I think that what she's doing is pretty illegal. Then she would yell at me because I had a job and didn't go with her to be the sober driver. As a side note, I didn't have a driver's license because she had grounded me from driving at 14 years old because she was afraid that I would run away. When I turned 18 and was asked what I wanted for my birthday, I said divorce, and that was the only time she ever gave me anything I wanted. Fast forward to my parents finally being divorced, and several years down the road, I'm getting married to my high school sweetheart. She lost her ever-living mind that her and my stepdad would not be at the wedding if my dad showed up. Me, trying so hard to have a relationship with her, finally agreed. And that was my mistake, a big mistake. So now I haven't had my dad walk me down the aisle. I don't have a daddy-daughter dance to the song Butterfly Kisses, nothing. And this was all an attempt just to keep her happy. Fast forward a year and a half, and I now have my eldest daughter. Again, she threw a fit and wouldn't come to the hospital if my dad was the first one to see my daughter. So I had to appease the beast. She ended up in the room with me, telling me to quit yelling and to just carry on because it didn't hurt that bad. Which guess what? That was news to me. But after this, we did cut off contact. But she ended up on her knees in front of our door, begging to be forgiven for whatever wrong she had done. I did end up caving, and she came in and got her claws back into my happy little family. Now, I'm gonna skip the nitty-gritty details, but I ended up losing my eldest daughter to CPS. Now, this is nothing that I actually did. I had left my ex-husband and was now living at my dad's. There were no substance issues or anything like that. She just had a severe seizure that the state deemed as me mistreating her. And because I live with my dad, one thing led to another, and surprise, surprise, I have no kid anymore. She proceeded to tell me that it was my fault that she was taken away, that she was now mourning the loss of her granddaughter and all this other stuff. The adoptive parents let her see her whenever she wanted, and they too ultimately cut contact. 2 years later, and with my second husband, I have my second pregnancy. She actually said to me, "I can't believe you didn't take my feelings into consideration and dared to get pregnant again. I won't claim that child. They have no relation to me. I am still mourning. How could you be so evil?" So right at that moment, I decided to cut contact again. I get knocked around again, and I toss my now ex-husband out. Somehow she found out and swooped in to try and put everything back together. "Oh, I love the baby. She's so cute," and all this other garbage. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, she seems sober. Here we go again. Something normal, hopefully. But nope, didn't cut contact this time. We just ended up going low contact. We eventually started working on our relationship, and I finally thought to myself, hey, I have a mom, sweet. But I think we all know where this is eventually going to go. Husband number 3 comes around, and this is a healthy relationship. My mom is fawning over my husband, along the lines of stating that she has a son now and all this other stuff. We flew her out for Christmas one year because we were on opposite sides of the country. And guess what? She was drunk the entire time, while also accusing me of taking advantage of her and the whole nine. She went to spank my daughter because she refuses to eat what was put in front of her. So I told her to get out. And once again, we went back to low contact. Then I find out what happened at my sister's husband's funeral. And boy, did I go ballistic. I flat out told her, get sober or don't talk to us ever again. And this time it was full no contact. Fast forward a year and she gets a hold of my phone number and calls me up to tell me that my great aunt had passed away. She also informs me that she is now sober so we can try and start working on a relationship again. It has been bumpy, but we have done our best to make sure that my daughter had a grandma. We agreed not to talk about my dad because she is convinced that my dad was physically awful towards her and everything else. He wasn't. I mean, the man cried the one time he was forced to spank me, just so we're on the same page and we're clear. If anything, it's vice versa. She still managed to talk about my dad every single phone call, and I'm talking every single one. Then this year, she had started heavy drinking again. Just imagine it, 24 packs a day and a gallon of Jack every 2 days. In July, she called me, screaming at me that I haven't flown her out again, screaming that I hadn't even been to see her, yelling that she would buy me and only me a plane ticket to come and see her. But why just me? She said to me, your child isn't my grandchild. I have only one. She meant my eldest daughter. Yeah, okay, buddy. I yelled back into the phone, hey, don't call me anymore. Forget that we even exist. You know, just angry adult children things. She then proceeds to get petty in the weirdest way. She started signing me up for random things, like really random things. Omaha Steaks being one of them. I now have her blocked on everything, and I'm so completely done with her. I can honestly laugh about my childhood now, but my God, therapy has made me realize it wasn't me. It was her. It was always her. Long story short, my mom was the worst entitled parent I've ever had the displeasure of knowing. I do feel a sense of calm now with her out of the whole whole family. In fact, my sister had cut her off, and she was low contact for a hot second until this last blowout. But regardless, I'm glad she is finally out of my life. Yeah, your mom really does not sound very healthy. Like, she clearly has a problem, and she honestly really needs some help. And it's not like you didn't try everything you could to try and make this work. You really went to some extreme lengths just to try and make her feel welcome, to make it so your kid has a grandma in her life, and all this other stuff. You really went out of your way to try and make it work, but your mother literally made it impossible. And that, in my opinion, is so sad. I mean, think about all the missed opportunities and all the things that went wrong as a result of her acting this way. So much sadness could have been avoided, but honestly, that is not your fault. So good for you for taking the steps to try and find some kind of peace in your life. Your mom sounds like a piece of work, and hopefully, with all things considered, she never steps foot back into your life or your family's life ever again. An entitled client decides they want a copywritten character in the menu I'm designing for them. And after going back and forth over and over with them, while also dealing with their awful attitude and their constant desire to micromanage everything that I do, I decided to maliciously comply and put the copywritten character on their menu. And as a result, these two people ended up getting sued by the people who own the character that they put in their menu. Things got so bad that they even came to me, threatening to sue me if I didn't help with their court case. But thankfully, I had a lawyer on my side who knew exactly what to do. Here's what happened. Last year, while I was working with digital design for a friend, he asked me to design something for a lady friend of his who owns a bar and was thinking of beginning fresh. She wanted a simple design for her menu. It was going to be only one page only, since there isn't many appetizers anyways, and didn't have much money thanks to the pandemic, so I was willing to work pro bono. We'll call her Nicole. That's not her real name. Nicole was messaging me every sort of art she found on Pinterest, saying how cute some were, and if I could do it like some of the ones she's been showing me. Now, if you've ever worked with designers, you know they strongly dislike when you dictate their work. You are welcome to choose patterns and positioning and whatnot, but bear in mind that it's best if they don't copy someone else's artwork. Anyways, I made 3 versions exactly like she asked. It took me around 5 days to design it because she didn't like the picture that she took, or something like that. But you know what? It happens. I was okay with it. Design number 1 was too colorful. She didn't like too many colors, even though I only used 3 main colors. Design number 2 she also didn't like. But design number 3 she said, "Oh, I love it." And I was thinking, thank God, I want to be over this. She said to me, "But could you remove this table at the bottom? Also, the character you put there doesn't represent my bar that much." Now, while my degree was something out of a YouTube tutorial, I could call myself a designer, since most of my clients loved my work, and some professionals were over the moon when I showed any of my projects. I never studied for real because it wasn't my career, but I digress. Nicole's sister, by the name of Natalie, also not her real name, she, on the other hand, read a book and was ready for the workplace. No, really, she read like 1 book about design and color theory, and that was it. Well, Natalie went to Nicole and demanded to know why she wouldn't come to her in the first place. Long story short, I was in a group chat with Nicole and Natalie, being bombarded with JPEGs and many cute characters holding plates. And then on the 3rd day, it finally came around. The atrocious menu, as I like to call it. It was my 3rd design without the table at the bottom, with a children's font, similar to Comic Sans but incredibly illegal, and a brunette cartoon character holding a plate. And when I saw it, I could have sworn I've seen that girl somewhere. Nicole absolutely loved it. The only problem, apart from the rest, was that where the table was colored red on an attempt to erase it, and the girl was outlined white, so Natalie told me to fix it. Well, I decided to do a reverse image search on Google, and it told me that the same mascot girl they were trying to use was something from a big food blog from our city, some kind of XYZ foodies group. Obviously, that's not the real name of the company. And that's where I knew the mascot from. I messaged them both asking if they really were sure they wanted to use that mascot, but they were indeed very sure. So I said, okay, very well, let's get this started. I changed my original design to match the desired one, and voila. I also changed my standard contract to register the design under Nicole's name with full responsibility. And I want to thank the internet for giving me that knowledge. The contract was signed and copied, art was delivered, and the case was closed. Well, not exactly. 3 months later, I received a letter in the mail, and I was being notified. It was faster than I expected. The original artist for the blog's mascot was suing me. It wasn't a formal lawsuit, I just don't know the term in English, but his lawyer went and told me I did something wrong. I contacted my mom's lawyer, and she was a little bit concerned. Copyright is really bad, and most lawyers were not equipped for it, because it's honestly so uncommon. Well, at least to us non-famous people. I told her about the absolute nightmare of the previous semester, and basically, to give a summary, while I did indeed design the menu, and eventually the same mascot was used for the logo, I was absolutely not responsible per my agreement. Eventually, another 3 months went by before I woke up to my cell phone absolutely losing it because of all the text messages and calls that I was receiving. Nicole and Natalie were angry. They said to me, "What in the world is going on? Why are we being sued because of your design? You need to solve this mess yes right now. I responded back by saying, I'm sorry, what happened? Nicole said, I'm being sued. I just received a notification at my bar. I asked them if it was the design, and she said yes. She then says, what did you do? Did you do this to me? Why would you do this? I responded by saying, I didn't do a thing. I just did what you and Natalie asked for. Natalie then said, what? Why are we being sued then? I responded by saying, possibly because you used the character from XYZ Foodies. Natalie then said, using another character on a design doesn't do this. I mean, you did tell XYZ Foodies, didn't you? But I responded by saying, why would I do that? The girl goes around the city trying every new bar and restaurant. I even asked if you two were sure about using this art. Eventually, there was a meeting with their lawyer. I think this is someone who also read one book, maybe two, and then became a lawyer. In attendance, including myself, was my lawyer, Natalie, Nicole, as well as the friend I was working with. The dude was saying stuff about design being the artist's responsibility and stuff like that, but my lawyer, bless her heart, pulled a copy of my single-page contract stating clearly that I, the client, take full responsibility for the design and everything that comes with it. After she read that out loud, everyone was quiet. That is, until Nicole opened her mouth. Nicole said, so how are you gonna help us? My lawyer said, we aren't. Their lawyer said, we can close a deal. If you pay 50% of any legal fees incurred from our dispute with XYZ Foodies, we won't sue you. My lawyer then said, or we can shake hands and you leave my client alone. Because if you sue and lose, we are going to court again for emotional damage and emotional distress at work for my client. Are we clear? Their lawyer said, okay, have it your way then. And with a smirk, the guy left. My lawyer, confused, just sat there organizing her two papers. And the sisters were sitting there with their arms crossed and annoyed looks on their faces. My friend looked at Nicole and said, you do know you're in the wrong, right? Eventually we left and I never heard from Nicole or Natalie again, except for the time I went to her bar and I saw that the sign was just Nicole's bar with a beer company logo. But this time it was actually legal. But with all things considered and all that we went through, I can definitely say when she saw me, she was definitely not happy. Yeah, that's a really funny situation where they did not read their contract. They straight up just said, oh my gosh, we're gonna get this great design for our menu. And then they put a copyrighted character in their menu. You know, the same character that's owned by the organization that's gonna visit your bar. Like seriously, you gotta be really stupid to make that happen. And also, why are you not reading your contract? If they had just spent some kind of time to read it over, they would have seen that they are completely liable for everything in the menu. And honestly, that's exactly how it should be. The artist just did exactly what you requested. They literally asked you several times, are you sure this is what you want? And they're trying to get a paycheck just like you are. It's not like they're making you put it in the menu. You are literally requesting it yourself. So the fact that they missed this and didn't look over their contract accurately is literally all of their fault. They have no one to blame for that except for themselves. So quite literally, this is not the original poster's fault. These people very clearly did not read their contract and they just said, yeah, we're gonna use that one. That one's really cute. Like you really can't use a character like that without some kind of permission. That is literally stealing and you can get in a lot of trouble. So good for the original poster for getting out of this without getting sued. This really does fall on the backs of Nicole and Natalie, and they literally have nobody else to blame except for themselves. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, check out Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked in the description.